directions because of an accident at Mill Place. In Essex, on the M11 northbound, a lane stays blocked because the car's broken down between junction 5 for Loughton and junction 6 for the M25. And on the rails, cancellations and alterations continue to affect Thameslink and Great Northern services. It's because of problems with the new timetable. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Alastair Campbell.
Hello, and if you tuned in hoping to hear the nicotine-stained, whiskey-coated tones of Mr Nigel Farage, sorry, but the Brexit counter-revolution is well underway and the People's Vote tanks are surrounding Nigel's battered Brexit lawns. He is, like so many of the Brextremists, a man on the run.
I never promised it would be a huge success. We will be in control of our own destiny, for good or for bad.
Well, it's feeling pretty bad right now, and it must have been an impersonator I debated with on all those occasions before, during and since the referendum who told me it was all going to be so marvellous.
They need us more than we need them.
They don't need us more than that's a fantasy. We're a 65
look at the numbers.
People.
Look at the numbers.
We're 65
there are
million
5
people
million
on the doorstep
jobs
of the biggest
in Europe.
market in the world.
Do you know something, Alastair?
Oh,
the German car industry.
God. Well, doesn't time fly when your country is careering over a cliff? June already, a whole 2 years almost since the June 2016 referendum. 2 years since David Cameron vanished, Theresa May became Prime Minister and told us that Brexit means Brexit. And 2 years on, we still don't know what she meant. So sorry folks, later on I will be posing the question, can a man be a feminist? But for now, it's Brexit. Brexit and more Brexit. With Farage out of action, I've desperately been trying to get a government minister to come on and defend Brexit. I've tried Boris Johnson, the one who said the cost of leaving would be virtually nil, so why are we shelling out 40 billion and where is the money for the health service? I'll be talking to a doctor about that, a real doctor. Not Liam Fox, I tried him too, hoping he might call in from an airport lounge to see if he still thinks that making trade deals to fill the gap left by leaving the single market is, quotes, easy, close quotes. I tried David Davis. It seems he's no longer promising a deal that gives us the exact same benefits as the single market and the customs union. That was an aspiration, not a promise, you understand. I've tried Michael Gove. He has met President Donald Trump, so who better to debate the special relationship? Trump having decided that America first means slapping huge tariffs on our steel and aluminium and provoking a trade war likely to compound the economic damage of Brexit. I tried for the Chancellor, Philip Hammond, as I suspect he agrees with me, but he's having to help Theresa May navigate her way through the Brextremist Rees-Moggian waters of the debate inside their party. I didn't try to get Rees-Mogg, by the way. That is doing you a big favour, dear listener, and him a favour too. Beware the risks of overexposure, Jacob. And thank you, White Man Van, Kieran Donovan, who gave the Mogster a lesson in reality earlier this week.
This is going to put small to medium-sized businesses out of business overnight. We won't be able to compete, and all you're going to have is the large companies running it. I'll tell you something. One last thing from me. I transport exhibitions. I transport car parts for the just-in-time production line. I transport AOG airport on-ground parts. I do band work for concerts. They cannot go by truck. They must go by van. They rely on the smooth and frictionless transport over borders where you do not stop to clear customs. There's nowhere to stop, and it'd be an absolute disaster when it does.
There will be a white paper. There is a bill on transport going through the House of Commons at the moment, and the issue with driving licence is one at the forefront of the Department of Transport's mind already, and they have a solution in sight.
So, Jacob Rees-Mogg, shut up for a while. The programme begins then with this public appeal to any member of the government, from Theresa to the Under-Secretary for Paperclips. If you want to defend the government's Brexit plans, please call 0345 60 60 973, text Theresa 84850 or tweet at LBC. Just answer the question. What the hell is going on? And I wouldn't mind calls from the Labour front bench too. After all, Jeremy Corbyn may not be in power, but he does have power. And it would seem more and more of his MPs are not happy about how he's using it. There are signs his Momentum fan club want to shift to a tougher anti-Brexit position. And now several groups of Labour MPs have signed up to support the idea of a people's vote on the final deal. But to show I'm not biased, my first studio guest is going to be a senior Labour figure totally opposed to the the idea. But most importantly, I want to hear from you, to leavers. Do you feel this is going as you want it to? Have any of you changed your minds? Would any of you support a people's vote on the deal when we'll have a better idea of what Brexit means? Or should we, as Ian Duncan Smith suggests, live with it or go and live elsewhere? And Remainers, do you, like me, feel that the mood is shifting our way? And will you, like me, be joining the march for the people's vote on June 23rd, the actual second anniversary? With the front benchers not keen to come on, I have in the studio a man, he's actually one of my closest friends, I would say. However, on this, we fundamentally disagree. That is former Lord Chancellor Charlie Faulkner, mastermind of the Dome, which we all knew was going one day to become the greatest rock venue on the planet. And on the line, first caller of the day, another prominent Labour figure and another good friend of mine, David Lammy. David, you're backing a people's vote. Charlie's not. David, you first. Why are you backing the people's vote?
Well, a lot of water's passed under the bridge. We're now in a situation where we're not entirely sure how much this thing's going to cost, but it's going to be a fortune, estimates of 40 billion. Huge losses to our economy on a week-to-week basis, and every single economist in the world would agree on that.
Apart from Patrick Minford. They've got one.
The terms of the deal are not at all fully understood. We understand now that there are big implications if we are to leave the single market and the customs union. I'm not sure it's entirely acceptable that ultimately the deal that we get should be voted solely on by members of Parliament, and there are still big questions about whether ultimately we will get those proper votes. Actually, it's important that the people of this country, the millions of them, get to look squarely at the deal they've got, get to look squarely at the fact that if they go forward with this, clearly there will be an income on their jobs, on their wages, and on the prospects of the country in the short to medium term. There are big ramifications also for the, if you like, the concept of the United Kingdom and the 4 countries of the United Kingdom remaining united. All of that means that, frankly, we must give the people their say and come to an ultimate judgment on the deal that we get and move forward as a consequence.
OK, David, you're for a people's vote, as am I. Charlie, you're against. Why?
Because it wouldn't be, as David says, an ultimate vote. If what the Remainers say, and I'm a Remainer, is we accept the vote as long as it's in our favour. If there's then a vote that, for example, said remain on the terms, then that would spawn a third referendum. It would not bring to an end this problem. We are a nation utterly obsessed with Brexit. We were told as a nation that the referendum would resolve whether we stayed or went. And that hasn't changed, basically. David's absolutely right when he says it's an absolutely critical issue. But we are wrong to say, because we didn't like the result, let's go back to the people. And just one more point. You're also, and I think both you and David are in danger of this position, that because you're asking for a second vote because you didn't like the result of the first one, people distrust what you say.
They may do.
About what the consequences are.
But listen, Charlie, your friend and my friend Keir Starmer has set out 6 tests for Labour. They're not being met. They're not going to be met. So your position basically is that whatever happens, we have to leave the European Union on whatever terms are put before us. That is absurd.
I think it's for Parliament to force the government, which it can do, to get the best terms that are available. I accept the terms will be worse than our current position in trading.
So we accept that?
We have to accept that, yeah.
So we have to accept we're going to be poorer.
That's a consequence of the democratic vote. What you are saying, Alastair, is I'm sorry, you're just like Ted Knight in the 1980s.
Oh my God, first I've had that.
No compromise with the electorate.
But there is a compromise.
The electorate said they were told what the consequences would be. They were told lies by Boris Johnson.
And now they contest it.
Well, there's an effect of the vote. The effect of the vote, this is the referendum vote, is we decided to leave. And we...
So you are saying we leave whatever?
We leave
whatever?
we leave on
so why are we having this debate at all?
We leave on the best terms possible. We don't leave whatever. Parliament's job is to ensure we get the best terms.
Actually, I mean, no offence, Charlie, but that's just not right. Parliament voted for there to be an advisory referendum.
Yeah.
Actually, the terms of that advisory referendum have been largely muddled and driven into a certain place by the current government. It's then for us to be absolutely clear on what the terms of leaving the European Union are.
I agree with that.
And what we've seen over the last 2 years is tremendous confusion. But when you represent people, as I do, and no offence to you, in the House of Lords, whilst, you know...
we like the House of Lords on this.
You've got all the authority. Keep going. Yeah, you don't need to go all through that. Yeah. You are a man of special authority here.
What you know in your bones is that this will lead to people being considerably poorer, and I certainly can't, with all conscience, do that. Now, I.
So you could just reject the view of the electorate.
But I might be wrong.
No, you give the electorate another chance to vote.
First of all, the point about it being advisory. Everybody conducted the whole thing on the basis this is in or out. Both sides said this is the thing that's going to be.
Right, but now. Charlie.
Oh, now?
No, wait a minute.
What a surprise.
Let me finish the sentence.
We're saying
now,
it's going to be very expensive.
Let me finish the sentence.
I apologise.
People are able to test their vote to leave the European Union against the actual deal. What is anti-democratic about that?
Because what people were being told is this is the in or out decision, whatever the terms.
So we might as well just all go home now and just let Theresa May take us out on whatever terms?
Of course not. It's for Parliament to... Sorry.
No, it's okay. David, thanks for calling in. Yeah. Thanks, by the way, David, for your wonderful interview in GQ magazine this week. Everybody will go out and get that. You're listening to Alastair Campbell standing in for Nigel Farage on LBC. It's 10:16.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
The US has fired the opening shot in what's said to be a trade war by levying tariffs on imports of steel and aluminium from the EU, Canada and Mexico. Roderick Abbott, former Deputy Director General at the World Trade Organization. What is the potential impact on the 31,000 Britons who are employed in this industry?
This is going to affect everybody all across the EU. There'll be an impact on business which will obviously start declining unless they reach an accommodation.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With The Times. Be not just informed, but well informed.
Word in the woods is that 3 little pigs are looking to sell their homes quick. They seem to be in a spot of bother with the big bad wolf called Rick.
Come out, little piggies!
So they spoke to the friendly team at Property Rescue, who can offer a guaranteed sale in as little as 48 hours at a fair price and a cash advance if you need one. Fast forward to living happily ever after. Visit propertyrescue.co.uk. Property Rescue. Fast forward to sold.
The Mail on Sunday is Britain's best read Sunday paper, and this weekend in life, our inspirational lifestyle supplement. There's Bear Grylls, with his top tips to get the kids off their phones this summer and make the most of the great British outdoors. From secret beaches to sleeping under the stars. Don't miss our guide to Britain's greatest family adventures. Plus, win a luxury caravan worth £30,000 in association with P&O Ferries. Only inside this weekend's Mail on Sunday.
Visit swaleheating.com and put your boiler in safe hands with Swale Heating's highly qualified engineers. Rely on us to keep you warm.
Every day, 2 people are killed or seriously injured on London streets by vehicles travelling at inappropriate speeds. So what is inappropriate speed? It's pulling away too quickly when the lights change. It's accelerating harder than you need to. It's not giving yourself time to brake if someone steps out. If you're driving, when your foot goes down, the risks go up. Think. Slow down. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Ready to get your garden blooming? At B&Q, do it for less with 4 mini dahlias for £10 and Verve 50-litre multi-purpose compost 3 for £10. Keep them watered too with our huge range of hoses and cans. So for low prices on beautiful plants, you can do it when you B&Q it. Dahlias £2.88 each, compost £3.86 each.
Martin could be like this, or like this. Just like his Citroen C3. Citroen C3 is available in 36 colour combinations. We could have made a car, but we made a car for you. Citroen C3 is now available with 0% APR. Visit citroen.co.uk to find out more. Citroen UK is a credit broker and not a lender. Terms, eligibility, criteria and returns conditions apply. PSA Finance UK Limited. 0% offer is only available on selected versions. Visit citroen.co.uk for more details. Citroen.
Oh, Ocean Credit Card.
If you're looking for credit, go to checkocean.co.uk and see in seconds if you'll be accepted for an Ocean credit card before you apply. Checking doesn't affect your credit rating, and with a credit limit of up to £1,500, it's a no-brainer. Go to checkocean.co.uk right now and get an answer in seconds. 39.9% APR representative variable. Intelligent Lending Limited is a credit broker. Capital One is the exclusive lender.
Checkocean.co.uk.
Alastair Campbell on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Right, we're talking about Brexit. What else? And we're talking about whether the people should have a people's vote once we know what the final deal is going to look like. And Linda on Trafford has a view. Linda.
Oh, hi, Alistair. Thank you for taking my call.
Pleasure.
I hope we are allowed another vote, and I hope we don't remain, because I firmly believe in Europe. But I think until people like yourself and other people who've been in governments apologise to the country, because it's your short-term thinking policies that have actually led to Brexit. And when I say short-term, I think right to buy. I mean, surely somebody should have looked and thought selling all our social housing is going to have a detrimental effect on the housing for future generations, and then the PFI repayments, which NHS has been lumbered with, costing absolute millions, and then you let you open the borders to Eastern Europeans, whereas other European countries staggered it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've turned our country from a manufacturing-based economy to a service-dependent economy, and all the wealth has been kept in the city and in the south. And you must know yourself, Alice, because you're from the north. Vast swathes of the north have been left to wither on the vine, and nobody's done anything about it.
Well, I've always.
And until governments, past and present, apologise for short-termism instead of thinking in the long term, and it's not Europe that's the problem with this country; it's governments and their short-term thinking policies, and even the European Court of Human Rights. People think that once we come out of Europe, we'll be out of the European Court of Human Rights, and we won't.
I know. Well, listen, Linda, thanks for that.
Damage to our country, which again, I mean, if you apologise and say, look, it's not Europe that have caused the problems; it's our policies, our short-term thinking.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to apologise, because I don't agree with you fundamentally, because I actually do think that the Labour government was a very good government, where I do agree with you is that I think that this is less about Europe than the impact of globalisation and the fact that so many communities feel left behind. But one other thing I want to talk about today is the National Health Service. And I mentioned earlier, I've got a real doctor in the studio, Dr. Liam Fox, one of the many ministers who refused to come on. And this is a gentleman by the name of Charles House. He's been a doctor in the National Health Service for 20 years, and he's now medical director at UCH in London. I first met you, Charles, I think, when you came to let's open disclosure here, an Open Britain meeting that I was speaking at, and you said this that I've used many, many, many times since. You said the country can have Brexit or it can have the NHS, but we're not going to get both. Now tell us what you meant by that.
Well, Alistair, the main point is that our NHS is absolutely dependent on a buoyant economy. We need money, we need funding. As we know, we've got an ageing population just now, people living for longer with complex needs, and the cost of providing that healthcare is going up. On top of that, we've got a rapidly expanding range of wonderful treatments that people can benefit from. And the NHS isn't in a state at the moment where it can take the sort of kick in the teeth that the effect of Brexit on the economy is having.
And are you feeling it already?
So I think that everybody's feeling it. We're in London. We're relatively well protected from that, and I know that there are a number of places far worse off than we are. But we've all got our particular areas of problems and issues, if you like. So, in London, for instance, the number of nurses from the EU who are working here has fallen off a cliff edge since the Brexit vote, and that gives very real problems with filling rotas. And it means that in filling those rotas, we sometimes have to resort to higher cost ways of doing it. So that's one example of how it affects in London. I know that outside of the capital, there are very real issues with doctors, for instance, in the northwest. where efforts to recruit doctors from overseas fall foul of the Tier 2 visa cap, and that different places are struggling in different ways with this.
And so these nurses and doctors and other medical professionals who are leaving, is it that they're leaving because they don't like the so-called hostile environment, or are they leaving because of uncertainty, or is it actually that people are not coming forward to be recruited?
Well, it's a combination of those. So certainly there's a fall in recruitment from the other EU countries, but also a huge increase in the number of EU nurses actually leaving the NHS, up by about 2/3 in the first year after the referendum vote, and what that's doing is impacting on the number of nurses overall, which is well recognised, where we've got a real stress on the system at the moment.
So, Charlie, none of this was thought of, understood. On the contrary, we were going to get more money for the health service, not less.
But I mean, you're only taking what the deceitful Leave campaign said. I mean, actually, people were saying during the course of the campaign, I said it myself, because people have been saying what Charlie is saying, namely it's going to make things really bad in the NHS, and what Charlie is saying about the NHS seems to be, from my limited experience of it, absolutely accurate. Nobody is pretending, it seems to me, except possibly Jacob Rees-Mogg, that leaving the European Union is not going to make us worse off than we would otherwise be.
Why are we accepting that?
Because democracy requires us to accept it.
But why does democracy? Why is democracy fossilised on one day?
Linda, well, because it was a question of do you want to leave or not?
And is the country entitled to change its mind?
Of course, it's entitled to change its mind.
And how is that going to be expressed?
By putting pressure on MPs.
Right, so what happens if Parliament votes down the deal? Where does it go then?
Then the government falls and Parliament installs, presumably, a government that wants a deal of a particular sort. But what you are doing, Alastair, this is what's so sort of focusing on the wrong issue. The questions that Charlie raises, all of which seem to
You're Charlie, he's Charles, by the way.
Sorry, Charles, I apologise, Charles. Dr. Charles.
Dr. House.
Dr. House. Dr. House, how interesting. Yeah. Hugh Laurie over here, the questions that he raises are ones that we should be focusing on now, are they not? I mean, what you're saying is we've just got to ignore the vote.
No, I'm saying we can't focus on them until we understand the economic damage that's going to be done. And if we think it's real, we undo it.
But you're saying you know better than the electorate.
I'm not.
I thought I disagreed with Linda like you did, that what we did as a government in some way contributed to it. But the issues that led to Brexit were much wider than simply Brexit. They were about health service issues, for example, that go way beyond the problems in relation to the European Union. But I mean, I'm really worried that people of real talent are focusing on refighting the last battle when we should really be focusing on trying to make it as
I don't see this as being the last battle. I think what Dr. House has laid out today is today's battle about tomorrow. Anyway, Charlie, just shows you're not on your own. We've got a caller from Brighton. Joe, I think you agree with Charlie, not me.
Yes, I do agree. I mean, if you're going to have to arrange for another referendum type question on a deal, we can spend that money and bring in back Sure Start centres. We should be actually advertising now every day a government fund to do start-up companies and help people launch new businesses. They should be advertising that on LBC.
But Joe, how do we do that if, as Dr. House says, the economy is going to shrink, which even the government says it is?
We've had 2 years to put out a fund to help people create businesses, because at the end of the day, there are companies moving to Berlin and Amsterdam or opening offices over there because we're talking and we're not preparing. So either way, the economy can see that a lot of the business these days is digital. So we should be putting out adverts and putting a venture capital fund to launch businesses in Britain, rather than talking about having another vote.
Charles, as opposed to Charlie. Charles, how do you explain? How do you try to persuade Joe that actually the impact upon the health service because of a shrinking economy is more important than this notion that we took back control on June the 23rd, 2016, therefore we've just got to get on with it?
Well, I don't think that anybody in that referendum vote wanted to think that they were voting for an NHS that didn't have enough nurses. I don't think anybody wanted to vote for that. But those are the risks that it turns out we're running. We're running additional risks, as you know, the European Medicines Agency relocating from London, where it's been since the early 1990s, with all the benefits that we get from that in terms of pharmaceutical companies locating here. That's going to be relocating to Amsterdam, so we'll lose direct influence and business from that.
Charlie?
But how do you deal with the point? It's just a sort of elite saying, look, we've got to...
Charles is not an elite, he's a
Charles
doctor.
is not elite, but it's everybody saying, look, we know the consequences of this are much worse, even though the electorate was told this during the election or the referendum. Nevertheless, you got it wrong, so you want to come back. And then assume you came back and assume you got a Remain vote on the second referendum. How would you have any legitimacy to prevent a third vote?
Charlie, the vote will be whether you accept this deal.
But this idea, everybody would see it, and you're being incredibly naive not to see it like this. Everybody would see it as simply the Remainers, as it were, getting the electorate to change their mind.
And if the electorate changed their mind,
so why shouldn't
then why is that not democracy?
Why shouldn't the Leavers have a third shot at it then?
Well, in which case they can argue for that.
But then the whole country remains divided by this.
Charlie,
Brexit
the country is going to be divided over this, whatever.
I don't think that
and
is
that
right.
is David Cameron's legacy, and it's why I'm glad that he's stuck in his shed and it's apparently too hot for him to finish his memoirs. Now, we're going to come back to this. You're listening to Alastair Campbell standing in for Nigel Farage on LBC. It's 10:30 and time for the news with Philip Chrysikos.
Lord Falconer has told Alastair he's against a second EU referendum despite being a Remain campaigner.
We were told as a nation that the referendum would resolve whether we stayed or went. Because you're asking for a second vote because you didn't like the result of the first one, people distrust what you say.
They may do.
About what the consequences are.
It's after a number of Labour MPs have signed an open letter to Jeremy Corbyn to change his party's policy. The Home Office is warning of a heightened risk of terrorism for at least the next 2 years. Tomorrow the government will announce its new counter-terror strategy. A minute's silence will be held this afternoon to remember those killed and injured in the London Bridge and Borough Market terror attacks a year ago today. A service will also be held at Southwark Cathedral at 3 o'clock. LBC will be observing a national minute's silence at 4:30. LBC weather. Scattered showers across northern England and southern Scotland. Sunny spells with isolated showers elsewhere. A high of 27 degrees.
LBC travel on the M25 anti-clockwise. It's very slow in Surrey. 2 lanes are blocked because of an accident between junction 8 for Reigate and junction 7 for the M23. In Limehouse, the A13 Commercial Road is closed in both directions because of an accident at Mill Place. In Clapham Park, the A23 Brixton Hill northbound has a lane closed. It's because of some water main work close to Jebb Avenue. On the rails, there are no southeastern services in or out of Victoria today because of engineering works. And on the tube, engineering work means the entire Circle line is suspended all day, along with part of the District, Hammersmith and City and Metropolitan lines. LBC Travel. I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC.
Right now, you can drive off with Aviva car insurance rated 5-star by de facto from just £176 a year. And should you need us, our claims line is open 24/7. Get a quote today, direct from aviva.co.uk.
10% of customers paid £176 or less for our standard cover. November 2017 to January 2018. Priced individually.
Play by your own rules. The Renault Capture Play turns your city into your playground with automatic headlights to uncover hidden gems, sensitive front wipers to clear the way, and the contrasting roof to show your true colours. Just $199 a month and $199 deposit with 0% APR representative. The Renault Capture Play. Book your test drive today. 0% APR representative. Renault Finance. Deposit $199. 48 monthly payments of $199. Final payment 5544. Subject to status. Over 18s. Order by July 2nd. Register by September 30th, 2018. Participating dealers only. T's and C's apply. See Renault.co.uk/offers.
Choosing your new ride and about to get your car finance from the dealership? Hold up. Before you take their offer, compare car finance deals at Confused.com and you could save over £1,000. Now let's try that again. Choosing your new ride? Visit Confused.com/car finance and you could save over £1,000 versus the dealer. Representative APR 5.9%. Based on £9,000 hire purchase loan on a £10,000 car. With a £1,000 deposit and repayments over 48 months. Credit subject to status. Visit Confused.com/car finance for verification.
If there's one thing QuickFit's famous for, it's tyres. And it's easy to see why. We have thousands of tyres in stock, including all the top brands. So we're bound to have what you need. Plus, with our special offers, there's always a great deal to be had. So head down to your local QuickFit today or book online and drive away happy.
The Mail on Sunday is Britain's best read Sunday paper, and this weekend in life, our inspirational lifestyle supplement. There's Bear Grylls, with his top tips to get the kids off their phones this summer and make the most of the great British outdoors. From secret beaches to sleeping under the stars. Don't miss our guide to Britain's greatest family adventures. Plus, win a luxury caravan worth £30,000 in association with P&O Ferries. Only inside this weekend's Mail on Sunday.
Get carried away by the rugby as England take on South Africa this month. Watch every test live and exclusive on Sky Sports Action and Arena channels for £18 a month.
Goodness, what a try!
Can Eddie Jones deliver the goods, and will Cipriani step up to the mark? Plus, in the build-up to the World Cup, watch 8 more England matches only on Sky Sports Action and Arena for £18 a month. Search by Sky Sports now. Requires Sky TV subscription, 31 days notice to cancel, further terms apply.
175? Is that all? 175?
Grab yourself this better than half-price Super Saver deal from the Co-op. A tub of Ben & Jerry's cookie dough ice cream for just...
175.
Was $4.99. Participating stores subject to availability. Ends 19th of June.
This is LBC with Alastair Campbell. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
We're talking Brexit. We're talking whether there should be a people's vote. I think there should. My friend and colleague, Lord Charles Fortner, thinks there shouldn't. My new best friend, Dr. Charles Howes from UCH, definitely thinks that there should. And we've got a couple of your calls now. First of all, one on each side. James in Gillingham, you're with me.
I believe I am with you, Alistair, on this.
Bad luck, James.
I've read all the economic reports.
I suspect that's more than a lot of the ministers have done.
Well, I guess it probably is. But I'll go back to 2016. That in the March before we had the referendum, I was talking to Len Pick on his radio show on another channel. And I said, one of the things we're going to see with the loss of passporting rights for many of our financial institutions, that quite a lot of them will shift their operation into the EU single market.
Yeah.
We're already seeing that.
Yeah.
Thomson Reuters have moved part of their derivative arm to Dublin.
Yeah.
And of course this will have an effect on the Treasury because you're going to have less corporation tax coming in.
Charlie Fortner is nodding wisely in agreement on that point. Carry on, James.
And you're also going to see, if we leave on WTO rules, that there's no deal, that there's no customs agreement or customs partnership or any customs union, you leave on WTO rules, and then because of all points of origin issues, you may find that many of the automotive plants will up sticks. It's not within the realms of impossibility for Nissan to shift their operation into their largest capital market.
Yeah, OK, James, leave it there. Charlie, just respond to that.
I agree with all of that. Those are
so
all
how can we go ahead with this?
But you seem to be, both of you, James and Alastair, ignoring democracy. We said, as politicians, after an Act of Parliament was passed, the people would decide. You cannot go back to the people and say, you got it wrong.
So whatever the costs, whatever the consequences, whatever the impact on the health service that Dr. House has set out, we just do this.
We've got to get the best deal that we can. I accept completely that James is right, that the risks of the way we're going at the moment with a government that's completely cocking it up in every way is that it may not be the best deal that we can get.
So are you saying, right, OK, I can take it.
You understand my point? And
I sort of understand your point. I'm just amazed that you feel it so strongly. Do you think Dr. House here is anti-democratic?
Not remotely. No, I'm sure he's actually, you've put into Dr. House's mouth words he hasn't yet said. I mean, I'm no doubt when you ask him, he'll say he's in favour of a second referendum.
Charles, are you in favour of the people's vote?
Well, I think that the understanding of the situation has shifted so much since the time of the referendum.
That's the point, Charlie. That is the point.
That is the sort of fundamental sort of wrongness in what you're saying, which is that Dr. House, I'm sure, was saying this before the referendum. You were certainly saying it before the referendum. Lots of people were saying it. Do you not remember before the referendum people saying things like, if you want a proper health service, you should vote to remain?
Yeah.
Exactly the points that Dr. House or his surrogates were saying before.
Do you think people who voted Leave or believe that we were going to be in the mess that we're in with this right now?
I think people were saying, we want to send you a message that the way that you are governing for us is not working. So
all right, let's go to Sandra in Cornwall, because I think, Sandra, you're with Charlie, not me, and Charles.
Well, I'm not particularly with anybody.
Oh.
I mean, I just like to see the situation as it is. I mean, we voted to leave the EU, and when we voted to go in, nobody wanted to have a second referendum then as to whether we should vote, stage vote to stay in.
Well, they did actually. It took them 40 years to get it.
Exactly. I mean, now,
but if we stay out for 40 years on the basis of that we seem to be heading in, then I would be with Dr. House in worrying that we'll even have a National Health Service worth the name.
I worked for 30 years in the NHS, and it's always been the same. Always been short of staff. I did 50-hour weeks with two people in charge of 50 patients. All they do is just moan about it today because they get damn good wages. They work hard, fair enough, but you go into the NHS, you know you're going to work hard. And when I went into it, it was actually a profession then, it was a calling. And I got very little money indeed. I dropped a job in a bank.
Well, I'm sure Dr. House here sees it as a calling, which is why he's trying so hard to save it from the damage he feels is being done.
Well, I mean, the wonderful staff in the NHS are going over and above day in, day out, and that's not in question here for one moment. It's the risk that we're putting that service under, and in saying that the risks are such that we won't see an NHS which is how we currently perceive it as delivering care to everybody in an equal way, because the risk is that if we do hit it, then we continue to leave patients waiting for longer for treatments, or some treatments which we're not able to offer at all.
OK, Sandra, thanks for your call. Dominic in Banbury.
Hello. I'd like to make the point. I voted Remain, and I was extremely disappointed when Remain lost, and I took part in my local Labour Party's Remain campaign when I was still a member of that organisation.
You've left, yeah?
I have to say, yeah, I left a few months ago, and I don't think it's fairly easy to guess why. I just it's like it's just like banging my head against a brick wall being a member of today's Labour Party. If you're not a Corbyn fan,
sorry. Okay, let's not go down. Just very briefly, tell me what the issues were.
Tempted Alastair there.
Sorry, you did draw me in there. Yeah. Tell me why.
Yes. Well, I'm against this idea of a so-called people's vote because.
But you should be with Jeremy Corbyn then.
Well, what do you mean? I mean,
well, he's against it as well.
Well, fine. Yeah, I didn't know that because I stopped following Labour Party politics a few months ago. But,
okay.
I mean, there's several things. There's many things I just don't like about Corbyn or McDonnell or that crowd.
Okay, and why specifically are you against the idea of us having a vote on the deal when we know what Brexit actually means?
Well, I'm against it because I regard it as it's anti-democratic, it's hypocritical, and it's arrogant. And I mean, if I was to say, if the result had been the other way around, let's say Remain had won by whatever odd million votes, and Leave lost.
Yeah.
Now you can guarantee that people like yourself would not now be arguing for a so-called people's vote or any sort of second.
Although I can remember that the person I'm standing in for today, Nigel Farage, he was on record before the vote when he thought he was going to lose as saying that if it's 52-48, that was the figure he used, we'd have to rerun it.
Yeah. Well, okay, fine, but that reveals him to be what you were revealed to be, with all due respect, is that your support for democracy is conditional, and that is what is so wrong about this idea of having a second, a so-called people's vote.
Even if it's on a different issue in a different scenario.
It's not on a different issue. This so-called people's vote is just a cover for getting a second referendum on membership.
Okay, all right. I take that. I take that. I don't agree with you, but I respect that view. Let me just a few of your texts and tweets. Alastair says, Gary in Muswell Hill, any second referendum has to be a straight choice between accepting the Brexit deal that's been negotiated or leaving without any deal. Right, that's the kind of yikes Armageddon.
Well, that's not what you're saying, is it?
No, and it's not. But what do you think of that?
That's a ridiculous idea. I mean, I think
Gary, Charlie says you're ridiculous.
I don't think, Gary, you're wonderful in every single respect, but that idea is not a good idea, I don't think.
So if there were to be a people's vote...
I'm against a people's vote.
I know you're against people's vote, but if we were to win that campaign, would you agree that the only people's vote you could have would be to be between the deal and the status quo?
I don't know. I don't know what you're proposing. I don't know whether you're proposing...
I'm suggesting that as an option.
Well, are you proposing 3 options?
You legislators would then have to go and
Well, what are you suggesting? You're the man in favour of this people's vote.
I think it should be between the deal that she brings back and the status quo. That we ask for an extension of Article 50 and we go back to the Europeans and say, we've changed our mind.
Why are you not giving a third option of seeking a third deal, seeking a deal different from the one she's come back with?
Well, you're the former Lord Chancellor. You can go and work out how you have a referendum.
No, I mean, you're the one pushing this bit.
I've given you my answer. Okay, what more do you want?
Well, I mean, how would you vote on limiting the choices for the public.
Right. Kieran Smith says, yes, the people should choose whether or not to accept the deal that is reached upon leaving the EU. We have a right to say whether or not it is a pile of rubbish. Nigel Brown, who for some reason wants me to know that he's a Cardiff City supporter. We had the biggest vote in 2016. It was the biggest turnout in decades. What part do you not get, Alastair? For me, they voted leave, so no need for another. So that is fairly clear. Dr. House, Charles as opposed to Charlie, we talked earlier about the impact on the health service, and anybody who's ever been in a National Health Service, in fact, Charlie, you remember you once visited me when I was in the Royal Free, and I remember counting the 16 different nationalities that looked after me in the 3 days that I was in there. So how important are EU migrants to the survivability, if that's a word, of our National Health Service?
Well, you mentioned 16 nationalities that you saw in your stay, Alastair, and at UCH, at our last reckoning, we'd got 120 nationalities working at UCH.
How many?
120 nationalities.
At UCH?
Yep.
Wow.
Absolutely. So that's how dependent we are on an international workforce, and that's the risk that we see for the way that we work. We value immensely the diversity and the different views and the different aspects of care that these people bring to us.
But the 120, there are 27 other countries in the EU. Explain how leaving the EU makes it very much worse.
Well, I think that leaving the EU makes it much more...
There's a global Britain health service.
But 120 nationalities there are...
But I think it makes us a much less attractive place for people to come and work.
I'm sure that's right.
So the President of the Royal College of Physicians, writing at the end of last year, said that we absolutely have to make the UK an attractive and accessible place for people to come and work. Well, it's difficult to imagine a policy more at odds with that than the one that we're following.
Just moving it forward, I mean, you have your second referendum. The country remains...
People's vote, Charlie. People's vote.
Sorry. The people's vote. Who are the people who are voting in the first referendum?
Because the first referendum was in the 70s.
Oh, right, OK.
Okay,
right, it's the third vote, then.
Well, enumerate them if you must.
But one of the problems about Britain at the moment is all we talk about is Brexit. We're a divided country. Although you say, well, this is going to be with us for generations.
Well, it is.
Well,
especially
surely we've got to find a way forward.
The quickest way to get it off our plate is not to do it.
Have we not got to find... Well, if we don't do it, what will the 52% who voted...
They won't be happy. They won't be happy. They won't be happy. Now, I'm going to have to shut you up because this is a commercial radio station. We have to have advertising. I want to thank Dr. House for coming in. Charlie, I just wanted to very, very briefly... we're 1 year on from the London Bridge attack. I've just watched an interview with Sajid Javid talking about the importance of, the combating terrorism. Do you not feel that one other reason maybe why we should take a look at Brexit because it's not going to help us in the global battle against terrorism?
Well, I'm really concerned about that because the links with the European Union have been incredibly important.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember the attack after 7/7.
Absolutely.
Where a person fled to Italy and we got that suspect back within days as a result of our relationship. But it's much deeper than that. Not customs checks, but people as they go through borders are immediately identified if they are terrorists. We have benefited so much from that. A counter-terrorism cooperation.
So you're prepared to put that at risk as well?
What I say to that is we've absolutely got to make sure that is retained. And if we don't make sure that that's retained, then we are making ourselves a much more dangerous country. It's interesting that the current Prime Minister, Mrs. Theresa May, said she was in favour of Remain precisely because of the threat to our counter-terrorism activities. It's a really, really important thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not in favour of leave.
You're
but I'm not
in favour on the argument of democracy. We had one vote during the 23rd, 2016, and you're in favour. Whatever the damage that's done, we're going to go ahead with it.
I'm in favour of respecting democracy, Alastair.
So am I, and that's why in democracy people are entitled to change their minds.
It was, as the gentleman said a few moments ago, our view of democracy is not we are happy for democracy as long as they agree with us.
No, OK, listen, thank you both, Charles and Charlie. You're listening to Alastair Campbell, standing in for Nigel Farage on LBC. It's 10:48, 3 minutes later.
This is LBC.
Hit drama Ackley Bridge is back.
I miss you.
Makes me think that you might still want me.
With Paul Nicholls, Joe Joyner and Sinetra Sarkar.
I can never have what I want.
We are going to find you the fittest girl in Ackley Bridge.
They say Pakistani women can't drive, huh? Hashtag fake news.
Ackley Bridge. The new series starts Tuesday at 8 on Channel 4.
Morning, Joe.
Morning, Mo.
Was your house built slap bang in the middle of Mo Farah's daily running route? No? Great! Then why not use Yopa to sell your home? You get your own dedicated local estate agent who'll sell your home in no time at all. See what I did there, Mo?
Yeah, good one.
You're most welcome. That's not as good. Book a free home valuation at yopa.co.uk. Yopa. Seriously, why not? Terms apply.
Your future is here. The Global Academy, a forward-thinking state school for 14 to 19-year-olds interested in a media career. Visit globalacademy.com to find out more.
Is your MOT or service due? At QuickFit, we've got over 500 centres across the UK that can do both, and most of them are open 7 days a week. Plus, with our special offers, there's always a great deal to be had. So head down to your local QuickFit today or book online and drive away happy.
Ah, the Caribbean. Another cruise, another me. Will I discover my adventurous side ziplining over treetops in St. Kitts? Or lift the lid on my foodie side on Antigua with a luscious lobster lunch? I could explore the delights of a spiced rum on St. Lucia. And back on board, cap it all off tonight and unleash my inner diva on the dance floor.
Cruise the Caribbean from just $1,399 per person for 13 nights and explore the world in you. Now with £340 per cabin to spend on board. P&O Cruises.
This is the life.
Subject to availability based on B906A JE grade. Conditions apply at or protected.
Barbecue season is here. Time to get outside and cook up a feast with your family and friends. This summer, make your life easier and take away the hassle of lighting your barbecue with the Weber chimney starter. Simply pour charcoal into the chimney starter, place it on top of lit firelighters and, well, that's it. Your charcoal will be ready to cook on in no time. Lighting your barbecue has never been easier. Now you can get a chimney starter for free when you buy select Weber barbecues at participating retailers. Offer valid until the 1st of July. More info at weber.com.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with Alastair Campbell.
Right, now it's just you and me, the listeners. Telephone 0345 6060 973, text 84850. Tweet hashtag Campbell on LBC or at LBC, and we're talking about whether we should have a people's vote on the final Brexit deal when Theresa May finally gets round to telling us what Brexit means Brexit actually meant. Carolyn Stanmore, I think you're going to disagree with me.
I am going to disagree with you. But really what I can't understand is you're so passionate about all the things that are going wrong and about what's bad about it. Why aren't you trying to help the country and the government get it right, get the exit right, rather than try and overthrow what we've said we want?
Because I can't see any evidence from the government, and I'm not a Conservative supporter. I am a patriot. I come at this not because I love Europe. I don't have any great emotional attachment to Europe. I love Britain, and I feel this is going to damage Britain fundamentally. That's why I'm so passionate about it.
But you don't know. None of us know because we're not out. And
that's true.
If you feel that way, then give us a chance to get it as right as we can possibly get it.
Okay.
And remember, there's another side to this. There are people that want us to have the worst deal possible because of political reasons.
I don't.
You might not personally, but lots of people do. And I also think, just one thing on the side, to be rude about Jacob Rees-Mogg is totally out of order.
Why?
He is the one person that when he speaks, you can actually understand what he's saying. Whether you agree or not is a different question.
You can understand what I say.
No, not always.
Can't you? I think Jacob... Listen, you're not going to stop me from taking the mickey out of Jacob Rees-Mogg. I think he's one of the most ridiculous creatures that's ever entered our politics. And I think it says something about Brexit that he's become such a significant figure. The only
reason why he's become a significant figure is because he's straight speaking. saying.
Well, he's not very straight speaking. He wasn't very straight speaking with Kieran, the van driver who phoned in last week.
I know that conversation. I thought he was perfectly straight.
He's very civil. I'll give him that. He's very civil, but he actually does talk a lot of nonsense about Brexit. He really does. I mean, who knows more about what happens on the borders between the EU and countries like Switzerland and Norway than the van driver who gave his experience of what happens every time he crosses that? And Jacob Rees-Mogg, who says he doesn't even need to visit the Irish border to decide to know what he's already decided, and he's never going to change his mind.
That was not the argument that he was making.
What was the argument he was making?
The argument he was making. Kieran was making an argument about his experience on the Swiss border a while ago. And Jacob Rees-Mogg was making the argument that, yes, they know that it all has to be sorted out, and there's a white paper, and they're addressing it.
OK, and honestly, Carol, just answer me, are you confident, looking at this government and looking at what the mess that they've created within the first 2 years, are you really confident in trusting these people to sort out all these issues? Because I'm not.
Can I tell you, I think that's the wrong question.
Ah, well, it's the one I've asked you.
It might be, and I'll answer your question.
You're sounding like a politician now, Carol.
Well, I'm not a politician at all. I've got nothing to do with politics at all.
Okay.
I'm a retired ex-businesswoman.
Okay. All right.
Managed to sell her business and retire. And I worked very hard.
Okay.
I was in it for 20 years, working 7 days a week.
All right. But listen,
but get back to the point you're making.
Yeah.
Your point?
My point basically was that we're running out of time and I want to squeeze in more calls. But thanks for being in touch and thanks for talking to me. Will in Oxford.
Hi, I'm actually living in London now. But
that's all right.
I just wanted to say one thing, which is that I was at this Farage event yesterday, 2 days ago, and I think it's becoming very clear what the Brexiteers' objective is, and that is just to squeeze over the line of the 29th of March. Nigel barely spoke about Brexit for the 2-hour event, but when it did come up, he admitted it was not going as how he wished it to be going.
Yeah, just a minute. What was this event that Nigel? Why was he in Whitehaven?
It was an evening with Nigel Farage, packed out with some of his loyal supporters.
Okay, and so what did he talk? What did he talk about if he wasn't talking about Brexit? I thought that was his big passion.
He was talking about his trips to America with Donald Trump and the course of all the interesting things that may have happened in his life.
Right. So he's gone into showbiz from politics. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, I think he has. I think he's actually heading to Australia next to go on tour.
Okay, that's not going to be very good for LBC, is it? They might have to get me in for a few more Sundays. I'm not doing Saturdays. I've told them that because of football. And Will, I've talked to you before. I can recognise your voice. You're a former Leaver.
Yeah, I did support Leave, and obviously now the question is, do we want a people's vote? I absolutely think that we have to have a people's vote. You just had Carol on, who was pointing out that she doesn't think enough has changed. So much has changed. Every single day, it seems to me, you open up a newspaper, there seems to be another drip of bad information from the negotiations. And at that point, when the proposition now is so fundamentally different, when the attitudes, even from the Brexiteers, is so different that all they want is to stumble across the line in 29th of March 2019, then absolutely we allow the people to scrutinise the deal.
Yeah. I mean, I've just noticed a tweet from Andrew Adonis saying he can't quite understand why Charlie Fortner keeps saying that, in his view, democracy, it's all about democracy, as if democracy ended on the 23rd of June 2016. That's what I it's like, if you buy a house and you get the survey done, if the survey says the house is not quite as what you thought it was, you don't buy it, and I kind of feel that's where the country's moving to. You're campaigning on this, Will, now. Do you feel it's moving or not?
I do think it's moving. I think that our side still has a lot of stuff to do. As I said, we literally have 5 months, and every single ounce of our energy has to be put into those 5 months to try and turn the situation. And one of the things that our Future Our Choice, the group that I'm involved in, is going to be doing is we're going to be heading into, as many events as possible in Leave areas and just trying to talk to, people who still think that this might be good for the country.
Yeah, OK. Well, let me bring one of those on, because I think, Jeff in Leatherhead, I think you are... And we're very, very short on time here, Jeff, because we're coming up to the news, but far away.
Yeah, Alastair, I just want to correct you on a few things. You've had Charlie Faulkner in there, who's your mate, obviously, from years gone by.
Yeah.
Putting up a very poor defence. Why couldn't you have got a proper Brexiter on
Well,
board?
I tried. I was tweeting all day yesterday trying to get them. They won't come on.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Reference the NHS. If you look at full fact, only 5% of the NHS staff are from the EU, OK, in the English NHS. That's a fact.
Well, that's quite a lot, actually, given that... I don't know what the fact... And if they all go...
It is quite a lot, but your doomsday scenario is an absolute nonsense. And since Brexit and since the vote, we've actually increased the number of EU...
well, it's not my doomsday scenario. That was the view of somebody who's worked in the National Health Service 25 years. And
another impartial person you got on board.
Well, listen, Jeff, you can come on and say that anybody who doesn't agree with you is necessarily there's something wrong about them. But I'm going to listen to him when he's worked for 25 years in the health service, and he's telling me that he's already being damaged fundamentally by Brexit. I mean, why is his view any less relevant than yours?
Because he's got a vested interest, probably, in keeping NHS as it is. But the facts are only 5%. And as Charlie Faulkner, who actually said something correct for the change, 120 nationals and only 27 in the EU. It's not these. If we need people, there'll be a control in immigration. These people will come in.
OK, well, listen, we're coming up to the news. Thanks for that. Thanks for coming on and managing to insult all of my guests. And coming up, can a man be a feminist? Can I be a feminist? You're listening to Alastair Campbell, standing in for Nigel Farage on LBC. It's 11 a.m, time for the news.
On your radio, on your phone, and here.
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom, former Justice Secretary Lord Faulkner has told Alastair why he opposes a second EU referendum despite being a Remain campaigner.
It's for Parliament to force the government, which it can do, to get the best terms that are available. I accept the terms will be worse than our current position in trading. So the electorate said they were told what the consequences would be. We leave on the best terms possible. We don't leave whatever. Parliament's job is to ensure we get the best terms.
Lord Faulkner's comments to LBC come as Andrew Lloyd Webber is criticising the House of Lords for voting against key Brexit legislation. The composer and former Conservative peer says the Lords' amendments were wrong for an unelected House to vote against the will of the people. In other headlines this hour, there's a warning the threat from Islamist terrorism could increase and last for at least another 2 years. The Home Office evaluation comes ahead of the government announcing its updated counter-terror strategy tomorrow. Defence Minister Tobias Ellwood has told LBC what the government wants to achieve.
More needs to be done to make sure people are integrated into our very open society that we have. It's very easy to get siloed into a particular community where you're only watching overseas television, you're only speaking a foreign language. And one of the focus that we'll hear more of tomorrow is actually about how more we can do in society to help those, to identify those, to recognise those that are vulnerable, that might be picked out by extremists to do their work for them.
A minute's silence will be held this afternoon to mark the first anniversary of the London Bridge and Borough Market terror attacks. 8 people died and 48 others were injured in the van and knife attacks. Ahead of a national minute's silence to remember those who died at 4:30, Theresa May says London's resolve against terrorism has never been stronger. Reverend Andrew Nunn will lead a service at Southwark Cathedral at 3 o'clock. He's spoken to LBC.
We're inviting along the families of those who died on that night, people who were injured, first responders, members of the community, with representatives from governments, both here and from all the countries that the people who died came from.
And LBC will be observing that minute's silence at 4:30 this afternoon. A man's in a critical condition following a double shooting in south-east London. He was reportedly shot in the head as he sat in his car in Peckham. A second man has also been taken to hospital. A study shows antibiotics may significantly shorten the lives of cancer patients having immunotherapy treatment. Researchers at the NHS Christie Hospital in Manchester say taking them to treat minor infections could unnecessarily affect survival rates. England go into their final final World Cup football warm-up game on the back of a win. Yesterday evening they beat Nigeria 2-1 at Wembley ahead of Thursday's friendly against Costa Rica in Leeds. 3 astronauts returning to Earth this morning after spending almost 6 months in orbit. They've covered more than 71 million miles during their time in space. LBC weather. Scattered showers across northern England and southern Scotland. Sunny spells with isolated showers elsewhere. A high of 27 degrees. From Global's newsroom, for LBC, I'm Philip Chryssikos.
Meet the team behind the success of Heck Sausages. There's the co-founders, Andrew and Debbie.
Hello.
Hi. Jamie, Ellie and Roddy, the next generation.
Hello.
There's Guy, the farmer.
Hello.
Isabel from New Product Development.
Hello.
And Ian.
Hi.
He's the relationship director from Lloyds Bank, who, by working together with the business, arranged the finance that helped build a state-of-the-art factory to help increase production to 1,200 sausages a minute. Lloyds Bank, by the side of business. All lending is subject to status.
LBC travel on the M25 anti-clockwise. There are queues in Surrey. 2 lanes are blocked because of an accident between junction 8 for Reigate and junction 7 for the M23. In Limehouse, the A13 commercial road is closed westbound because of an accident at Mill Place. There are queues in Harold Wood. The A127 Southend arterial road is partially blocked in both directions. That's between the A12 Eastern Avenue and Squirrels Heath Road. It's because of an accident in the roadworks. On the Tube, engineering work means the entire Circle Line is suspended all day, along with part of the District, Hammersmith and City and Metropolitan lines. And there are minor delays on the Piccadilly line between Acton Town and Arnos Grove because of signal failure. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Alastair Campbell.
Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed our robust exchanges on Brexit. Lots and lots of texts and tweets. I love this one. It says, Farage is away, but by the sound of things, he's still in charge of the switchboard. Well, no, we were putting the calls through 50-50. But if somebody's with Nigel, I hope you can pass on the news that I'd say, looking at all the tweets and all the texts coming through, I'd say that Charles House and I won that debate against Charlie Faulkner. I think there were more people saying yes to a people's vote than were saying no. No, it wasn't 52-48. It was way more than that. Now, we're going to be talking about feminism, and you can join the conversation, 0345 60 60973. You can text on 84850. You can tweet at LBC, or you can use the hashtag at Campbell on LBC. Feminism. So why are we talking about feminism? Well, you've got Meghan Markle has joined the royal family and has declared herself very proudly to be a feminist. We've had the Irish referendum on abortion, and since when Theresa May has been challenged to demonstrate her feminist credentials by acting to relax the abortion laws in Northern Ireland. And today, on the same subject, we've had Arlene Foster, the DUP leader, claiming, I was a little bit sceptical about this one, that she's being bombarded with Sinn Féin supporters in touch backing her in resisting the calls for change. And we're talking feminism also because this week I have been a willing victim of it. Now, one of my sidelines, sorry to bang on about Brexit, but I'm editor-at-large of the New European, which was born from the ashes of the referendum. I write for it every week, but this week, despite my illustrious title, editor-at-large no less, I was asked, well, if I'm being honest, I was told to take the week off. And the reason is that feminist campaigner Caroline Criado Perez was guest editor. So tired old middle-aged male hacks like me and Mike White and Matt Kelly and Andrew Adonis, we were asked to lay down our pens. And the very small number of men who were allowed to write, they were allowed to do so on the basis that they were paid less than they normally are to reflect the pay gap, the gender pay gap. So this week, the New European is called The New Feminist, and a very, very good read it is too. As it happens, I do live in a very feminist household. My partner Fiona, Twitter's biography, says journalist, feminist, education campaigner. My daughter Grace, hers says feminist obvs. And indeed it was obvious to anyone who saw her feminist prank show on Channel 4 recently, Riot Girls. Look it up. Hilarious, says proud dad, but with serious points to make. Now, Grace calls me a patriarchal feminist, and I kind of know what she means. I am theoretically a feminist, in that I believe passionately in equality of opportunity. I think men should respect women, frankly, a lot more than too many men do. I want my daughter to have every bit the same opportunities in life as my sons. And yet, though I was always pretty good at sharing childcare, I must confess, all the rest of it, not very much. Feminist Fiona takes care of our finances, pretty much everything else. Now, I grew up with a mum who did everything for us as children, and as an adult I probably do still tend to have expectations I'll be cared for and looked after. And nor can I claim to have shown that good an example on all things feminist in the household to my two sons. So maybe rather than patriarchal, I'm a theoretical feminist. I talk the talk, but don't walk the walk. And I'm not very proud of that. But here is the question that this week's New European prompted in me. Can a man be a feminist at all? And to help me answer that question, I'm delighted that Caroline Criado Perez, editor of the New European, delete New European / New Feminist, is on the line. Caroline, first of all, congratulations. I think it's a brilliant edition.
Thank you very much.
And answer my question, can a man be a feminist?
Well, look, in the New Feminist, we actually have a page for him, a special page for our gentlemen readers.
OK, which page is it? I've got it here. What
I can't remember the exact page, but it's called A Page for Him, so it should stand out for you. We've done it in blue, because all men love blue.
All the tweets! All that tweet stuff,
from
OK.
A Man Who Has It All.
Yeah.
Words of wisdom from the cult male leader, Man Who Has It All.
OK, but listen,
he has some great words of wisdom.
But it's just here, just a little reminder to smile today because women like to see positive men. I felt a bit challenged by that.
What, you don't want to smile?
I do want to smile.
It might never happen, Alastair.
OK, no, I do smile. I actually don't mind cleaning the bathroom as long as my husband reminds me. Family woman Claire CEO. That's not very feminist. So come on, what do you think
Can a man be a feminist? Yeah. Of course a man can be a feminist in that, it's perfectly possible for someone of either sex to believe or to understand that society is built in a way that discriminates against women, to stand against violence against women, to believe that women aren't biologically predisposed to scrubbing toilets and, changing nappies, that men are just as capable of loading a dishwasher as a woman,
right.
And that there's no particular reason that having a penis means you should be paid more. So
I agree with all that. And
it's perfectly possible for men to think that too. But it was interesting what you were saying about believing it and not necessarily living it. And that would be my issue. I don't really care whether a man calls himself a feminist or not. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in how a man behaves.
Right.
Does a man take on 50% of the childcare of the children he was 50% responsible for producing? Would he be just as likely to give up time from work to do unpaid caring duties as a woman would be expected to? If he's in a position of power, is he actually promoting people according to merit, or is his idea of merit something that just happens to always end up being a middle-class white guy?
I'm actually quite in favour of the positive discrimination on that side of things, both for women and for ethnic minorities, and I get a lot of flack for that.
I don't like the term positive discrimination because I think it confuses a lot of people because it makes it seem like what we have now is a level playing field.
Right.
And actually we don't. What we have at the moment is discrimination towards white men, and all the evidence shows that. And really, you kind of have to realise that unless you genuinely believe that white middle-class men are just better than everyone else. Do you really believe that, Chris Grayling is, the best the country has to offer? Or has he benefited...
Well, hold on a minute, Caroline. Is Theresa May the best the country has to offer? That's a good question as well, surely.
Yeah, it is. But, I mean, it's...
Would you rather have a really, really good male Prime Minister right now or Theresa May?
I would rather have a really good feminist female Prime Minister.
Okay, not a very good feminist male Prime Minister.
I don't think that, it's a good... I don't find that a very good or useful question because the reality is that, very few women get through. I do find it very interesting that the Tories have produced 2 female leaders and Labour hasn't produced any female leaders. And I read a very interesting book speculating that this is because women, that left-wing parties have more women in them, so women are actually more of a threat. So in left-wing parties to left-wing men. So right-wing men can sort of allow a few select women to rise up without thinking that they're going to threaten them in a serious way.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a great article about this in the New Feminist by Sarah Dighton about brocialism, which is exactly
I read that. And I learned
what did you think about it?
I learned a lot from that, and I was also very pleased to see you sort of stick it a little bit to guys, I guess, like Russell Brand and Owen Jones, who probably do see them as see themselves as feminists. Can I just say on a point of fact, by the way, I know they were, you could say, acting, but both Margaret Beckett and Harriet Harman have at times been leaders of the Labour Party, but I agree with you on the big point. And actually that's a really good point to bring in Mandu Reid, because Mandu, you're from the Women's Equality Party. Now, just tell me what you're trying to achieve as the Women's Equality Party and how that fits into this broader debate about feminism, not just in politics, but more broadly.
I mean, essentially, we're responding to the situation we find ourselves in this country, whereby the mainstream political powerhouses are not ambitious enough when it comes to gender inequality, tackling gender inequality. There's nowhere to turn if you're a voter and you think these issues matter. So we're there to demonstrate that people care about this, and there's an avenue that they can take if they want to actually signal that publicly, and we want to set an example to the other parties, and that's what we're doing. Okay, and is there? I mean, this is probably the old big party machine tribalist in me coming out, but is there not a danger that because you will be defined as a kind of single issue cause, that you maybe will ultimately just help what I think is a very unfeminist Conservative Party cling on to power? I mean, that is a potential scenario, but what we're here to do is show people that, their votes are being taken for granted and there's a place for them to turn. And actually, if you ask me, no party has a monopoly on any vote whatsoever, whether it's the progressive vote or any other vote. And we're here to actually allow the other parties to up their game. For example, I'm standing in Lewisham East, and I wrote a letter when I announced my candidacy to the Labour representative about, hey, let's actually join forces. Let's look at how we can pool our best ideas. And, the approach, which I guess didn't surprise me, but it did disappoint me, was that the letter wasn't even acknowledged. So there's an unwillingness that's proven out there by the mainstream parties to actually adjust what they do, respond to what the public wants with respect to gender inequality.
Okay, and just answer me briefly the question I asked of Caroline as well. Can a man be a feminist?
Oh, I think, of course there are differing views on this, but absolutely a man can be a feminist.
Who's the most feminist man you know?
Let's think about it. I mean, there's not a long list that I can recall. I'll tell you why. A man can be a feminist because it's about equality and fairness, but there's a difference between calling yourself that and actually being one. Okay. You've got to acknowledge, to be one, you've got to acknowledge the systematic and structural gender equality that blights our society. You've got to recognise male supremacy and its impact. You've got to challenge and work hard to dismantle patriarchy. And you've got to relinquish some of your privileges. I mean, my feminism is what I like to call total feminism. Takes inspiration from Dutch total football.
Oh, brilliant. Well, now you talk about language.
I thought you'd like that as a Burnley guy.
Yeah.
Just in case I've lost some listeners there. In total football, players perform interchangeable roles. My feminism it's an inclusive feminism. Anyone at any time can be an attacker, can be a defender, or can kind of actually help support those who are trying to make gender equality a reality.
Okay, well, listen, I'm telling you, Mandy, you've got a great book title there for sure. So, and listen, finally, you may have, I don't know if you heard our discussion earlier about Brexit, but you're standing on, in the by-elections, you say, what's your position on whether the public should have a people's vote on the final Brexit deal?
Essentially, Parliament, as it's currently configured, consistently fails to represent the interests of women. And so for that reason alone, there needs to be a people's vote. It's not a second referendum. It's a brand new referendum on the terms of the deal. And if people aren't given that right, then actually I would argue that that is the very thing that's anti-democratic.
Excellent. Well, I hope Charlie Faulkner is listening to this on his way home. And thanks, Mandu, for calling in. You're listening to Alastair Campbell. Caroline, stay there for a minute. You're listening to Alastair Campbell, standing in for Nigel Farage on LBC. I've overrun again. It's 11:18.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
Children starting primary school unable to speak properly, dress themselves, or even use the toilet. Neil Leach is the Preschool Learning Alliance's chief executive.
If you are a parent who cannot find the time to read to your child, etc., you need encouragement.
You seem to be supporting the idea that some parents haven't got time to teach their child how to go to the toilet.
I'm recognising it's an issue.
If you're not doing that, you're failing as a mother or father.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With The Times, be not just informed, but well informed.
Did you know you can get real-time updates to find out when your bus is due? There are loads of mobile apps available, powered by TfL data, or you can visit our website, all of which make it easier than ever to plan your journey. Running for the bus may soon be a thing of the past. Search TfL improvements. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Get a big deal on a great new look for your home right now at Oak Furnitureland. Because there's up to 50% off so many different looks in store and online. Modern, classic, natural oak, even painted. It's all 100% solid hardwood. So you can get the look for less. The big deals at Oak Furnitureland. Must end Sunday.
The Mail on Sunday is Britain's best read Sunday paper, and this weekend in life, our inspirational lifestyle supplement. There's Bear Grylls, with his top tips to get the kids off their phones this summer and make the most of the great British outdoors. From secret beaches to sleeping under the stars. Don't miss our guide to Britain's greatest family adventures. Plus, win a luxury caravan worth £30,000 in association with P&O Ferries. Only inside this weekend's Mail on Sunday.
Your future is here. The Global Academy, a forward-thinking state school for 14 to 19-year-olds interested in a media career. Visit globalacademy.com to find out more.
Barbecue season is here. Time to get outside and cook up a feast with your family and friends. This summer, make your life easier and take away the hassle of lighting your barbecue with the Weber chimney starter. Simply pour charcoal into the chimney starter, place it on top of lit firelighters and, well, that's it. Your charcoal will be ready to cook on in no time. Lighting your barbecue has never been easier. Now you can get a chimney starter for free when you buy select Weber barbecues at participating retailers. Offer valid until the 1st of July. More info at weber.com.
Connor, that was quite a shift.
Yeah, you know, credit to the team.
Any assists?
Yeah, like with the award-winning Panasonic OLED TV. With HDR, it's like you're in the stadium. Just $1,599 for the 55-inch. In fact, buy any 55-inch plus TV this summer, there's a 1 in 20 chance to get your money back. At Curry's PC World, we help you get it right.
16 plus, excludes Northern Ireland, ends 26th of 6th. Register 32 to 42 days after purchase. Full terms at currys.co.uk/free-TV.
Clear a desk, clear an office, clear a worksite, or clear a warehouse. With Clearabee, you can clear your work's rubbish quickly, easily and affordably. Choose our B-Bag skip bags, which can fit where skips can't and are suitable for day-to-day waste, specialist construction and more. Or let our man and van rubbish removal service clear it all for you. The choice is yours. Book now at clearabee.co.uk.
Clear rubbish easily. Clearabee.
Right now, you can drive off with Aviva car insurance rated 5-star by de facto from just £176 a year. And should you need us, our claims line is open 24/7. Get a quote today, direct from aviva.co.uk.
10% of customers paid £176 or less for our standard cover. November 2017 to January 2018. Priced individually.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with Alastair Campbell.
So we're asking, can a man be a feminist? And I'm asking you to call 0345 60 60 973, text 84850, tweet hashtag Campbell at LBC or at LBC. And I'm delighted that Caroline, you still there?
I am still here.
Good. I'm sorry to eat into so much of your Sunday. All these damned adverts. But you know what? I'm looking at page 10 and 11 of the New European, New Feminist, as it is for this 1 week. And you've gathered, I mean, hats off to the picture researcher. You've gathered the most extraordinary collection of, I mean, I don't know how to describe them really. They're adverts, posters and billboards that you've gathered from different parts of the world, including the UK, in the last year, 2 years, and they are absolutely extraordinary for, as you say, take a bow, Don Draper. The influence lives on. The use of men's interest, very traditional interest in women's as sexual objects is more alive and well than I realised.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is. I don't think anyone should be surprised by that.
I was genuinely surprised. I mean, the one, a bus with a very good-looking woman on the back of it with no clothes on, holding a board that says "Ride me all day for £3."
Yeah.
Or a 7-inch hot dog. I'm not even going to describe the 7-inch hot dog in Singapore. It is extraordinary.
It is, but it's not, because it sort of shows that this is where we still are. You know, I think that we have thought for some time that we are further along than we actually are. I think a lot of people woke up to the fact that we'd been sort of conning ourselves a bit, actually, when I got all the rape and death threats for campaigning for a female historical figure on the back of banknotes.
Yeah. Which is kind of how you first came across our radar, isn't it?
Yeah, that huge swell of anger at a woman campaigning for something that really wasn't very extreme, really just a line drawing on a piece of paper at heart, that it would cause such anger and fury and fear that people would think that a reasonable reaction was to threaten me with rape and death.
Yeah.
I think opened a lot of people's eyes to the fact that, perhaps we haven't quite managed to bring everyone along with us when it comes to saying that women and men should have equal opportunities.
OK, well, let's hear from David in Highgate. Are you happy to take a couple of calls, Caroline?
Sure.
David?
Yes, good morning, Alastair, and good morning, Caroline. I'd like to set my stall out immediately and say that I'm absolutely in favour of gender equality. I'm a big fan, for example, of Mary Wollstonecraft and Anne Bronte and other landmark historical feminists. However, I take great issue with third-wave feminism because I believe, despite what it says on the can, that it actually damages women's prospects. I mean, I think third-wave feminism is essentially driven by a desire to demonise and stigmatise men, and it's obsessed with dark conspiracy theories about the so-called patriarchy. And I'm afraid, actually, really helping women comes a very distant second. I'd like to give an example of this. As I say, I'm fiercely anti-feminist, only in that sense, not in the original sense. Alison Saunders is no longer with us, Director of Public Prosecutions, an avowed and passionate feminist. I'm afraid what she did to the legal system was absolutely disaster. It went into meltdown because she had an aim to increase rape prosecution. That's fine, nothing wrong with that. That's what women victims deserve. Unfortunately, there have been literally many hundreds of men in prison, the victims of false accusations. This is not disputed at all, and these are coming out. Now, the problem is that doesn't help.
Can I come in there for a second? Because that actually is disputed heavily. Rape is the lowest form of crime that has any form of false reporting, and that is not surprising at all. The vast majority of women do not report, so the vast majority of rapists are never even spoken to by the police. And the reason that women don't report is because the justice system is so heavily discriminatory against women. The ordeal that they have to go through, for a start, having a rape kit and being questioned by police who don't necessarily believe them, and then going through all that, and then the CPS deciding that there isn't enough evidence to take up their case. And then they finally get into court, and the defence prosecution starts asking them what they were wearing, what they were saying. I mean, a most recent case, a man got off because it was claimed by two men after the guy had originally been found guilty. It was claimed by two men that she had previously said during sex with them, bleep me harder, as if that is some incredibly uncommon thing that no one has ever said. And that was used as evidence that she couldn't possibly have been raped. So I'm sorry, I can't actually allow that level of actual conspiracy theory to go unchallenged.
All right, well,
it's simply untrue.
Right, stay there. Thanks for challenging that, Caroline. Grace in Camden.
Hi, Dad.
Hello, Grace.
How you doing?
You're a feminist.
I'm a feminist.
Can a man be a feminist?
Yes. I think a man can be a feminist, but I think that if they want to truly be one, they need to really unpick things that they've adopted naturally because of the way that society teaches them to behave. So I think that for a man to be a feminist, it's a lot more than just saying... Well, it's good that they're saying they're a feminist because that means that they believe in equality. But I think to truly be a feminist, they need to really unpick things. So I've thought of some examples with you, which I'm going to talk about. Firstly, you still call women birds, which I think isn't... I think you don't even think about the impact that has, you know?
When do I do that?
You do it when you're around men. Huh?
When do I do that?
You do it when you're around men. You do it when you're around men, I've observed.
Okay, do I? Really?
That's something that if you truly want to be a feminist, women aren't birds. Birds are birds. Birds can fly, women can't fly.
And I like birds.
Exactly.
Real
but
birds.
Women aren't birds.
Yeah.
You call women women, you don't call them birds.
Okay, I don't remember calling them birds, but I'll promise not to do that again. Okay.
Yeah, okay. And also, the thing about doing stuff in the household is really interesting because, like, I've noticed that what you do, which a lot of men do, is they make up the excuse of I can't. So I don't know how to change the laundry. I don't know how to use the coffee machine, so I can't. Instead of saying you can't, just learn how to use an espresso machine because they made Nespresso so easy that you could use it if you wanted to instead of making the excuse that you can't.
Yeah, but I can't.
You can, and this is the point, you know.
I can't change a tyre. I'm very impractical. I can't change a tyre.
No, that's an excuse that you've made up from a very young age to use so that you don't have to do things. So you get out of things, you say you can't. You can do those things.
Okay.
If you can do all the things that you do in your daily life, you can definitely use an espresso machine.
Okay. Anything else that you want to tell your dad off for on this nice Sunday morning before he goes off to Scotland?
Because what I'm saying, the last thing is periods, because if you really want to be a feminist, you need to be able to talk about periods. Periods are a natural thing.
I came to your period poverty protest at number 10.
But if I tell you I'm going to change my tampon, you kind of grimace and cover your ears. There's two different things, supporting that, but actually being able to talk about periods like they're a normal thing that happen to women. They're not disgusting. This is like a big thing for the whole period conversation now. We need to break down that taboo and make them normal things. So those are just my little things that I'm basically to not be a patriarchal feminist as someone who believes in equality but doesn't really act on those things.
Okay.
And the difference. And then
I'm not bad for 60, Grace. I'm not bad for 61.
Sorry? No, you're good. You're good.
And I'm learning.
I think you don't give yourself enough credit, but what I'm saying is that there is a difference between being a feminist and sort of believing in equality.
So talk the talk is easy, walking the walk is a lot harder. All right, okay.
What's hard about it is you've got to educate yourself on things. So it's work, you know. You've got to really do that if you would really want to properly be a feminist. You've got to educate yourself and talk to women properly.
Okay, all right. Well, I now want to educate you in football. You couldn't even name 3 current Burnley players, could you? She's gone. Absolutely nothing. Life is all about education. You can educate me in feminism and I can educate you in football. Okay.
Knowing 3 Burnley players doesn't prove any political point, does it?
No. Okay, all right, Grace. Okay, stop nagging me. Listen, thank you for that, Grace in Camden. And thanks to everybody who's calling in on this. I'm enjoying my little chat about feminism. You're listening to Alastair Campbell, standing in for Nigel Farage and LBC. I've overrun again. It's 11:32 and it's time for the news with Philip Chrysikos.
Security authorities say they're foiling an average of 1 terror plot a month and believe it's likely to remain that way for at least the next year. It's as the Home Office prepares to announce its revised counter-terror strategy tomorrow. Lord Falconer has told Alastair he's against a second EU referendum despite being a Remain campaigner. The former Justice Secretary says it's for Parliament to force the government to get the best terms, adding another vote will mean people will distrust what the consequences are. A National Minute's silence will be held this afternoon for the victims of the London Bridge and Borough Market terror attack. A year ago today, 8 people were killed and 48 others were injured when a van was driven into people before the attackers began stabbing others. LBC will be observing that minute's silence at 4:30. LBC weather. Scattered showers across northern England and southern Scotland. Sunny spells with isolated showers elsewhere. A high of 27 degrees.
LBC Travel, there are queues in Surrey on the M25 anti-clockwise. 2 lanes are blocked because of an accident between Junction 8 for Reigate and Junction 7 for the M23. In Limehouse, the A13 Commercial Road is closed westbound because of an accident at Mill Place. There are queues in Harold Wood on the A127 Southend Arterial Road after an accident earlier on in the roadworks between the A12 Eastern Avenue and Squirrels Heath Road. All the lanes are now open. On the rails, cancellations continue to affect Thameslink and Great Northern services because of problems with the new timetable, and there are no South Eastern services in or out of Victoria today. That's because of engineering works. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC.
With Clearabee, getting rid of rubbish is quick, easy and affordable.
Clear rubbish easily. Clearabee.
If you own a Swiss watch and it's time to sell it, speak to watches.co.uk. The whole process runs like clockwork. Rolex, Patek Philippe, Omega and more. It only takes a couple of ticks and we pay immediately. Or if you just fancy a change, we could take yours in part exchange. From time on your hands to money in your pocket, it couldn't be easier with watches.co.uk. The pre-owned Swiss watch specialist.
This week at Lidl, enjoy a taste of the finer life. Get a bag of deluxe hand-cooked crisps for just 99p. A bottle of deluxe Presse only $1.69. And deluxe speciality honey for only $2.99. Posh nosh for very little dosh. Subject to availability in may vary selected stores while stocks last.
Morning, Joe.
Morning, Mo.
Was your house built slap bang in the middle of Mo Farah's daily running route? No? Great! Then why not use Yopa to sell your home? You get your own dedicated local estate agent who'll sell your home in no time at all. Ha, see what I did there, Mo?
Yeah, good one.
You're most welcome. That's not as good. Book a free home valuation at yopa.co.uk. Yopa. Seriously, why not? Terms apply.
Get a big deal on a great new look at Oak Furnitureland. With up to 50% off, you can get the look right now for less. But hurry, the big deals at Oak Furnitureland must end Sunday.
Connor, that was quite a shift.
Yeah, you know, credit to the team.
Any assists?
Yeah, like with the award-winning Panasonic OLED TV. With HDR, it's like you're in the stadium. Just $1,599 for the 55-inch. In fact, buy any 55-inch plus TV this summer, there's a 1 in 20 chance to get your money back. At Curry's PC World, we help you get it right.
16 plus, excludes Northern Ireland, ends 26th of 6th. Register 32 to 42 days after purchase. Full terms at currys.co.uk/free TV.
The Mail on Sunday is Britain's best read Sunday paper, and this weekend in life, our inspirational lifestyle supplement. There's Bear Grylls, with his top tips to get the kids off their phones this summer and make the most of the great British outdoors. From secret beaches to sleeping under the stars. Don't miss our guide to Britain's greatest family adventures. Plus, win a luxury caravan worth £30,000 in association with P&O Ferries. Only inside this weekend's Mail on Sunday.
This is LBC with Alastair Campbell. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Welcome back, and Caroline Criado Perez is still with me down in Cornwall. I think you are, Caroline?
I am in Cornwall, yeah.
Good, lovely. I'm just looking at a TV screen where there's Arlene Foster, the leader of the DUP, talking about the abortion issue in Northern Ireland. One question, just going back to the Irish referendum, it struck me as interesting. I don't think I saw any debate about the question as to whether actually men should have had a vote in that issue. Do you not think if we really are taking a feminist approach to this, that it should be an issue for women to vote on?
Well, I don't think that it should, that women's bodily autonomy should ever be put to a popular vote in the first place. Obviously, it had to because of the Irish Constitution. So there wasn't really any question of whether men should or shouldn't vote. You know, that was just a matter of the legal process. On the whole, I do think that it should just be about a woman's choice. You know, it's her body. And having seen my sister-in-law and my friends go through pregnancy, it is a huge, huge ordeal on a woman's body. The things that happen that we don't talk about. You know, people don't talk about what a huge toll pregnancy and then birth takes on a woman's body in a way that I had no idea until I saw my friends go through it. So forcing a woman to go through that is something that should never happen. So I don't think that it is particularly relevant, what men think in that case, because it should be a medical decision, and it's up to the individual whose body it is.
Yeah, and just, I don't know if did you hear my daughter's little...
I love your daughter. She was brilliant.
Yeah, well, I love my daughter as well, but
I'm sure you do.
Is there anything you'd want to add to her continuing and fairly relentless efforts to educate me in the world of feminism?
Well, I think you could have not told her that she was nagging you.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I do that.
That was a false step.
Okay.
And I think I loved how she picked you up on trying to equate whether or not she knows some footballers' names with actually knowing about the structural ways in which women are discriminated against. Because, Alastair, that's not really the same thing, is it?
No, I'm not saying the same thing, but I'm obsessed. That she knows, both she and Fiona, her mum, know that I'm obsessed with football. They're not. They're not really interested. So, I mean, I think it's good to be passionate about things, and she is absolutely passionate about feminism, as you are, and she has actually completely changed the way that I look at some of these issues. I thought I had stopped saying birds, by the way, but anyway, I will now promise to do that.
I did enjoy that humiliation you just endured.
It was
that
moderately.
Was
you see, but is that what feminism is about for you? Is it men like me being humiliated?
That, but, you in particular being humiliated was great fun.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Well, listen, next time Matt Kelly, the editor of the New European, asks you to do another new feminist issue, make sure you get Grace to do a.
Now I've seen her stuff. Absolutely, she's commissioned.
She could do a column about trying to turn her 61-year-old aging dad into a sort of.
Are you really sure you want her to do that? Was this not enough for you?
No. I think so. I think because I don't like issues where I talk the talk and don't walk the walk. I think I don't feel comfortable doing that, and I'm very conscious of doing it. I did it this morning when she goes on about the dishwasher. I'm afraid I am a bit sort of dyspraxic, and I'm just rubbish.
No, I'm sorry. You can learn how to use a dishwasher.
Okay, all right, okay.
You're clever enough. You're a clever man.
Okay.
You can figure out the most basic of homeware appliances.
All right. Well, listen, you get back to the beach or whatever else you're doing down in Cornwall.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for taking so much of your Sunday to be with us. That's Caroline Criado Perez, and I do strongly recommend, even though I'm not in it for once, her special edition, The New Feminist of the New European. Not everybody agrees with Caroline. Sean in Chesterfield.
Hiya, mate. How's it going?
I'm very good, thank you.
I think this is quite a complex issue, to be honest. I think feminism as a whole is more of a female-only perspective. A man can never, ever understand the intricacies of what it's like going through life as a woman. But then I think there's mistruths on both sides. Feminism is third-wave feminism in particular is a multi-million-dollar industry at this point. At what point is it going to turn around and say, job's done, we can give up, everything's equal.
What do you mean by industry? You don't mean that literally, do you, an industry?
I do, I mean it literally. It's powered by marketing. Everything's feminism now. From we see it in adverts, we see, and this is what I mean about mistruths, We see, they like to claim that, the criminal justice system is biased against women. And I'm not refuting the fact that rape goes on and women don't report rape cases, which is what the right likes to embellish. But, we're forgetting that there's more males in prison than all over the world.
Yeah.
Than women,
So, sorry, what is your point on that? I don't understand the point on that.
Well, men are you're more likely to go to jail as a man.
Is that because men are, I don't know, more violent, more aggressive, more greedy? I don't know.
Is that? Could you not argue that's down to socialisation, though?
Right. Okay.
Is that their fault?
Right.
It's a patriarchal system after all, isn't it? So, these are traits that shine through.
Yeah. Would you and that thing we said that a man can't truly understand, do you think a rich person can understand what it's like to be poor, or a black person can understand what it's like to be white, or vice versa?
Rich and poor, yes, because the circumstances change that. But when it comes to race, no.
Right.
You can't. There's no way you can understand, because you've not had that insight.
Can you, as somebody from the north, understand what it's like to be a Londoner?
If I lived there, perhaps, maybe. It depends where you grew up. You know, it's all about circumstance. It's all about what you've been through in your life.
Right, so maybe I'm wasting my time, and even as can a man be a feminist, or could I become more feminist?
A man can support equality. I think it's a very different thing.
Right.
I think the feminist, the clue's all in the name. Why are we still, when we're talking about equality, naming the force of all good, feminism, and the force of all evil, patriarchy? I mean, for a movement that's so interested in the implications of language, that's a bit hypocritical.
Right, OK. All right, thanks for that, Sean. And Mike in Bridgend. It's interesting how the calls are mainly coming in from men. Mike in Bridgend.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's... everybody's got the equal opportunity whether to pick up a phone or not, haven't they? So, as far as I'm aware, there's no great patriarchal conspiracy to take phones away from certain parts. That's kind of an academic point, isn't it? That's like the argument they were making previously about why are only cyclists in London white men cycling in London? Well, maybe that's because they're stupid enough to cycle around London and get smashed.
Well, you're talking to one of them.
Everybody has access to phones and bikes. If you want to buy a cheap bike, you can buy one and go and cycle on it.
OK. So can a man? Now let's get back to the point. Can a man be a feminist?
A man can absolutely be a man can. Anybody can be whatever they want to be. Everybody's turning around and saying like, man is this, woman is that, woman all virtue, man all sin. It's nonsense. They're all just people at the end of the day, and women have their good points and bad points. Men have their good points and bad points. And I would say that ultimately, like I say, there are not enough women in high positions in jobs or parliament, but that is gradually changing over time, and it will change. In about 50 years, the situation will probably remedy itself. But I do think that the constant reference as well, if you want to change people and make them more receptive to your, for example, having greater diversity on boards, academic boards and company boards, it might help if you stop trying to divide everybody and saying, for example, like, I see too many, like, old white men. There's constant references to old, middle-class white men. Nobody ever makes... There's no reference to any... That's the only pejorative reference you can get away with about a whole skin colour of people. It's just to chuck, well... And I find it just totally hypocritical. Instead of saying that, just say, as a person... if you're a person in a hiring capacity... Try and make the people you hire represent the diversity of the local population you're in. Yeah, but
doesn't history suggest that actually, unless there are people like Caroline and my daughter who are actively campaigning on these things, that the change doesn't come if you just let the thing take care of itself. Otherwise, it wouldn't have taken so long for women to get the vote, for us even to think that. I mean, when you look at politics, when you look back at whether it's Churchill's era or even back to Ted Heath, you hardly ever saw, till Mrs. Thatcher came along, really, you hardly ever saw a woman in a position of power anywhere in British life. Now, that has changed, but would it have changed without people campaigning and drawing attention to it?
I'm saying all power to your daughter and all power to Caroline. I'm not saying, oh, Caroline, you're talking nonsense, and your daughters. I'm saying they feel it, they should campaign for it. But try and, instead of dividing it between, there's all them evil white, there's all them constant references to white men. Instead of saying that, just say, well, if you're in a hiring capacity, try and hire people who are, not all looking like you. Instead of name me another context in which a skin colour is referred to as a pejorative.
OK, good point. Thanks for that. You're listening to Alastair Campbell, standing in for Nigel Farage on LBC. It's 11:46.
Coming up at 12 on LBC, Majid Nawaz.
A doomsday Brexit scenario has been drawn up by senior civil servants envisioning shortages of medicine, fuel and food. They're calling it Armageddon. Are you afraid of a no-deal Brexit?
Majid Nawaz on LBC.
LBC has been running a special report to highlight Dementia Action Week, thanks to Alzheimer's Society.
When you've got somebody who might have Alzheimer's or another form of dementia, just give them time. With a little patience, people can be included. They can feel better about day-to-day life.
Head to lbc.co.uk to find out more details about how all of us can play our part to help improve the everyday lives of people affected with dementia. Thanks to Alzheimer's Society and LBC.
Here's another true story from Aldermartin, Baines and Cuthbert. When fire tore through a residential London development in 2015, the local health and safety executive were quickly on the scene. Fortunately, ABC had all the right health and safety paperwork and certificates, and to the great relief of the building's owners, were able to prove there was no fault. No fuss, no hassle. For block management, ABC Estates will give your story an ending that'll make you as happy as Larry. Find out more at abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
Hit drama Ackley Bridge is back.
I miss you. Makes me think that you might still want me.
With Paul Nicholls, Joe Joyner and Sinatra Sarkar.
I can never have what I want.
We are going to find you the fittest girl in Ackley Bridge.
They say Pakistani women can't drive, huh? Hashtag fake news.
Ackley Bridge. The new series starts Tuesday at 8 on Channel 4.
Is your money working as hard as you do? Think about it. While you're grafting away, is your money working too? No? Then it's time to Wealthify. Wealthify is the smart, easy way to start investing. Just say how you want to invest. Cautious, adventurous, somewhere in between? And let Wealthify do the rest. Then keep track of your money on the app. Easy. Isn't it time for you to Wealthify? Download the app or visit wealthify.com. With investing, capital is at risk and you could get back less than you put in.
Emirates are bringing the other side of the world closer to home with daily flights from London Stansted. Starting the 8th of June, you'll be able to fly from London Stansted all the way to Dubai and on to over 150 destinations worldwide, making getting from your home to the other side of the world much simpler. Fly Emirates from London Stansted and discover the other side of the world.
Alastair Campbell on LBC. Text 84850.
Welcome back. I see that my daughter Grace is now tweeting LBC, suggesting that she takes over, which is very ambitious, I have to tell you. So we've been talking about feminism and getting some very good texts and tweets through. I like this one from Matt in Cheshire. Oh my goodness, I think this is about me and Caroline. What a load of metropolitan claptrap. Just 15 minutes of why I should never read the New European. Equality, opportunity, yes please. Men hating, no thanks. Well, I certainly don't hate men, and I don't think that Caroline does either. And I'll simply repeat, the New European is a great read this week. Madge, Alastair, there is no such word as can't. Re-periods, they were not talked about in front of men by our generation. It's how we were raised. That's true, but Grace is suggesting we do it a bit differently and just make it part of the normal conversation of life like everything else. Christian, I don't believe men need to be feminists. I believe, as with the abortion vote in Ireland, in choice. People should have the choice to live the way they want. Partners in a relationship should work to their strengths. In some families, the mum will look at more after the children. Other families, the dad will do most of the chores. I believe we're all equals, but we also have different strengths. I don't mind making the coffee in the morning or doing the dreaded ironing because my husband deals with things I don't like dealing with insurance and small print, etc. I think what Fiona and Grace would say to that is, I'm afraid I don't do that either. But anyway, I'm going to educate myself, and we're going to keep taking your calls. Eunice in Manchester.
Hi, Alistair. What I wanted to say, I don't think it's healthy to sort of box it in as, if you're a male, then you can't be a feminist. What I believe is, absolutely you can. And the message that should be is, education. It's like saying, if you're white, then you can't be an activist for racial issues.
Yeah. And some of the greatest anti-apartheid campaigners were white, for example.
Jeremy Corbyn, one of them. So I don't think it's healthy box it in like that. I think the best way to do it is, like myself, I consider myself a feminist because I believe in equal rights for everybody. Do I get things wrong sometimes? Yeah, I do, without realising, but I'm willing to be educated and go, actually, you've got that wrong. This is how it is. I think that's the message that needs to be put out. If it's like a negative message, people, especially in this country, will react to that. If we get told, no, you can't be something, then, we'll react to that, angrily usually. So I think, it's not a healthy way of putting it in black and white.
No, okay, but I think it's this question of whether you have to be something to be able to feel and properly understand what somebody else feels. If you're not, I mean, I for example, as somebody who's British, I mean, we might think we can be like other countries, but actually we are all different. And I think we try to reach out, we try to educate ourselves, but I think it's very, very difficult sometimes.
No, I do. I completely agree with that. And myself, my parents are from Morocco, North Africa. I was born in Surrey, Kingston, lived there my whole life. But but sometimes people don't understand that you do experience racial issues, like getting on a plane. You know, the first time I got on a plane, 20 people, a random search for yourself. Okay, that's a random search. But when I get on a plane again and it's a random search, and then another time it's a random search, and then you go, okay, maybe the searches aren't so random when it's just you getting picked out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But then it's sort of been willing to go, okay, you can't understand that, but you can still educate people and make it a bit more of a positive image.
Yeah, I want to read out a couple of texts taking me to task. Coral in London, she says, Alistair, you asked why there are more male callers on this subject. You somehow managed to make the topic of feminism about men, so you shouldn't be that surprised. I mean, that maybe I am a man. I mean, you know, maybe I have come at this from the wrong angle. But so I take that. I'm getting a lot of criticism here. I don't know, from my daughter, from Coral, from Caroline enjoying my humiliation. Alastair, this is from Mike. Men invented dishwashers. In fact, men invented nearly everything. So how can feminists say men can't fill dishwashers? We don't want to any more than feminists want to unblock the drains. This is just more fake news. I'm not sure about that one, Mike. And I do like the... we've definitely got some of Nigel fans still listening. Oi, Campbell, why don't you disappear? You're a dinosaur. And there's another one basically saying that this Blairite, I'm not going to put the next word, feminist nonsense has completely ruined my Sunday. Bring back Nigel. So I don't know, where do you stand on the on the way we talk about each other, Eunice? I mean, can we disagree and still be nice about each other?
Well, that's my philosophy. You can still disagree and be friends at the end, you know. But I can't remember, I don't know, it was Neil deGrasse Tyson, that's what he said. When you get into debate with someone, before he asked them, is there anything I could say that would make you change your mind? And then if that person says no, then there's no point having a debate with that person.
Yeah, there's Dave Kelly has tweeted. This one. I don't know if you're still listening, Grace, but he says, "Why on earth would a woman need to specify she wanted to change a tampon to a room full of men? Don't feminists believe in discretion?" I think this does show that sometimes these issues we just get driven so quickly into these kind of rather hostile positions, and it takes you ultimately. I mean, I've been reading up recently because I was doing something for a magazine on this whole issue of involuntary celibates, and it was pretty scary stuff about men who basically think that, you know, women should sort of have sex with them if they want that. Is kind of what I read into it, which struck me as being kind of weird, really. I like this one. I'm not a feminist. I'm a female supremacist. I want women to rule the world, excluding Roseanne and Arlene Foster OBVs. You see, then we're into it again. What sort of women do we want, and what sort of women do we believe in? Anyway, Eunice, I'm glad that you think that men can be feminists, and I hope that this debate is helping people find their feminist side, although I have to... Oh, here's one. Alistair is better than Nigel. This has made my Sunday. Sasha in Brighton, and she's outnumbering those who are going in for Nigel. There's one other little equality issue I want to talk about, and that's Mr. Raheem Sterling. I watched him play. I watched the game last night, England against Nigeria, and England won 2-1. And I've got to be honest, I support Burnley, but I also support Scotland. I'm not that excited about the World Cup, but I do like watching football. And he dived, okay? He dived, and he got a yellow card for diving. And he should absolutely get lacerated for that, in my view, for diving. He should not get lacerated by anybody for having a tattoo of a gun on his leg. And I just warn you all, with the World Cup coming up, that, frankly, when you hear this thing about footballers being role models, I don't think footballers are role models. They're footballers. And all the reason the media keep telling us that footballers are role models is so that they can write about every single part of their lives. Raheem Sterling is a footballer. He's quite a good footballer. He'll probably start for England in their first game in the World Cup. I hope he doesn't dive, but I hope we understand that these people should not be vilified and demonised for stuff that they do off the field, unless it's of a criminal nature. And the idea that every single thing they do and say, in private or in public, is for us to sort of gorge over, I'm not with that. at all. There you go. That's coming up to the end of me. You're probably going to have Nigel Farage next week. Are you going to have Nigel Farage next week? Where he's back from his Whitehaven tour, where he doesn't want to talk about Brexit. And am I now, Christian? You're going to have to tell me if I'm going to shut up now. I've got text and tweets. Where are they from? LBC, feminists completely dismiss the reason they have equality right now is because and thanks to white middle-aged men. You're welcome. That's from somebody called Stop Being Sheep. And his picture of himself is of a dog, so I'm not giving him the final word. Refreshing to have Alastair on this morning instead of Farage. Intellectual discussion, it's a nice change to the constant Brexiteering nonsense that we have every Sunday. You've been listening to Alastair Campbell. I've been standing in for Nigel Farage on LBC. Coming up at 3, it's Andrew Castle, but up next it's Majid Nawaz.
Alastair, I think Nigel and James O'Brien have gone away on holiday together to discuss Brexit. All right, thank you very much. Coming up, over 70 people have been murdered in London since January, a tally higher than New York's. But Sergeant Chris Cooling has said that gangs are targeting and killing each other, and ordinary members of the public are safe. Do you feel safe from London's knife crime epidemic? Before that, Denmark has joined several other European countries in banning garments that cover the face, including Islamic face veils, such as the niqab and burqa. Should Britain follow